Welcome to the Foundation's Conversations at Home program. I'm Jenelle Riley from Variety. Before we speak to our guest today, I want to let you know that the Foundation has set up a COVID relief fund in order to support thousands of union performers who are going through tough times. Since March, thanks to your donations, the Foundation has given over $6.1 million in emergency aid to more than 6,000 performers and their families. If you are a SAG-AFTRA member and you need help, please ask. And if you can help, please give. Now, without further ado, it is my pleasure to introduce an actor who in just the last 5 years has been the recipient of 2 Emmy Awards, 4 SAG Awards, and a Golden Globe. Please welcome Sterling K. Brown. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me, Jenelle. How you doing today?
I'm good. You know, it's funny because it was 5 years ago this month that The People versus O.J. Simpson premiered. And I know this because it came up in my Facebook memories because I had posted Christopher Darden's little handwritten note to Sarah, you know, it's fabulous about her hair.
Yeah.
And I had said, everyone's going to know the name Sterling K. Brown. And boy, did you prove me right. And when you first won your first Emmy for the role of Christopher Darden, you even made a joke about saying, you know, thanks for voting for me, even though you don't know who I am.
Yes, I did.
So what has the last 5 years been like for you? It's been crazy from my perspective.
It's been crazy inside of it as well. Like, honestly, I made that joke in all sincerity. I said, one of these things is not like the others. Like, I know the names of all the other nominees, and I can go back, Jesse Plemons, Bokeem Woodbine, Hugh Laurie, John Travolta, Schwimmer, and I was like, and then who's this Sterling K. Brown, the dude with the middle initial? And I had no expectations of that moment. I got nominated. I won. I'm in the room where it happens. I'm surrounded by famous people. And then our show started to win a few things before it got to my category. I remember D.V. DeVincentis won Best Writing in the category. And I think our directors were sort of split up because we submitted 3 or 4 directors because Ryan was nominated, Anthony Hemingway was nominated, the late, great John Singleton was nominated. I was like, see, y'all gotta pick one. You're making them choose between too many. And that's what I thought was gonna happen to me. I was like, we're choosing between too many. It's not gonna happen. And I'm telling you, Jenelle, when they said my name, I almost fainted. Like, I truly could not believe that it was happening. I saw my body, like my soul flew out of my body and was like looking at me, and all of a sudden it just said, get up, bro. You only got 45 seconds, get up. And when I walked up on that stage, and this was truly, this was a top 10 moment. The fact that everyone stood up and applauded, it was a truly heartwarming, just surreal sort of moment. So since then, life's been good. Like, it's been solid. My youngest son was born while we were shooting OJ. We were shooting Marsha, and I'm telling you, this episode took like 2 or 3 weeks to shoot because Ryan was shooting it. He was going back and forth between Horror Story and our show. And the day that we were supposed to shoot the scene originally was the day my son was born. I had the first scene of the day and the last scene of the day. I was like, I'm just gonna go home and hang out with my wife. And they're like, cool. Then I was like, it's going down. And they're like, all right, you don't have to come back. Oh. And then I think I came back the next day to possibly shoot that scene. But so I have the beginning of that show. I remember getting This Is Us, the script, and being like, hey, Sarah, like sitting at the prosecution table, being like, hey, Sarah, I think I read something that I really like. She's like, you want it to be your next thing? I was like, I think so. She's like, go get that shit. You know, Paulson's just like, go get that shit. I was like, all right, I'm gonna go get that shit. And to be able to follow it up, that show, with something that has meant so much to so many different people and has resounded in people's hearts in a very different way, has been a real blessing. And the other opportunities that have come in terms of film and just people knowing your name. Like at the beginning, it was folks yelling at you, yo, Darden, what's up? You're Darden. And to go from that to be like, you Sterling K. Brown? And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, oh my God, I'm such a big fan. It's a good feeling.
That's amazing. Christopher Darden, of all people, should be so grateful to you because there's, articles out there about how you made him like the best potential boyfriend on television. He's so supportive.
You know what? I have not had a chance to have that conversation with him. I know he didn't watch for a long time. I think it was such a traumatic thing for him to have experienced. If he is appreciative, I hope so. I really, as I was doing it, I said, I hope that folks can see the predicament that this individual had placed themselves in and how just tenuous it was to be sort of the black face, but not really be able to fully articulate everything that he was feeling in that moment. I hope I did it justice. So that's all I can say.
Absolutely. And I love that you came back to the Emmys a year later and made history, winning another Emmy for This Is Us. Yeah. And this time everyone knew your name for sure. But, when This Is Us first premiered in 2016, it was an instant hit and people really took to this family. And now you're 5 seasons in, it's stronger than ever. Why do you think people connected so strongly to this family and this show?
That's a great question. I think my short answer is Dan Fogelman. I think he's such a beautiful, open human being who truly wants to see the world reflected on screen. Like, he wants everyone to see themselves. And he's so talented in what he's able to do as a writer, and in the places where he needs help, he's not afraid to ask for it. And so there's always a very diverse room. For the past 5 years, when I walk in, I know that if Dan doesn't know something, he has people that he can reach out to and be like, yo, can you help me out? Like, why are we wearing a silk head wrap here? Like, why Black women need pillowcases? Like, he's not afraid to be like, okay, this is necessary in this part, and I can ask these people to help me out. I think, the polarization of the country over the past 4 or 5 years has been very evident in terms of the election in 2016, 2020. I think we all love our families. I think at the end of the day, we all want to see that connective tissue reinforced on screen, to know that however we feel, red, blue, et cetera, that like families first. And our show, I think, does a pretty good job of showing that connective tissue, especially because it's not a conventional family. There's things that are conventional and there's things that are not prototypical. And so everybody feels reflected. Yeah. I think so much of my career prior to OJ and This Is Us, I've been very much the beneficiary of colorblind casting. You look at the breakdowns and they say all ethnicities possible. And you're like, okay, cool. They're trying to make room for someone who's not white to be able to play a role that may have been written originally for a white person. And there's a space for that. To be able to see yourself is good. What I think Dan has done, and I think what the move is happening, is sort of being race specific. And it's not about being blind to someone's ethnicity, but like, we need this person, we need this background in order to tell this story, right? And I like, this is, my wife and I very much, I'm gonna bridge this with a little pop culture. My wife and I very much enjoyed watching Bridgerton. Ellipses. When you put people in certain roles, however benign your intent is, there's gonna be sort of connotations that come from it based upon how you cast it. So it's not about just being blind, but color conscious. When, only the 1 or 2 people of color really have prominent speaking roles, but everybody else is white. And you're like, oh, that's interesting. When like the darkest skinned dude, and it happens to be like the most evil person in the show, like, if I'm gonna be like the Duke of Hastings, I'm just gonna walk around like me and just cursing everybody out. You suck, you suck. That's my joke for my next Halloween. But like, folks notice, they pay attention to it. And so you can't just be blind. You kind of have to pay attention to what you're doing, because it's going to land on folks in a different way. And I say that having enjoyed the show, but with a critical eye of like, how can it be better? So yeah.
I have to keep telling people it's okay to criticize the things we love.
Amen.
It really is.
Yeah. Yeah.
We've watched Randall grow over 5 years and we're still learning new things about him. I mean, this season, he finally learned the truth about his mother's past. And really, I'm getting like goosebumps just thinking about it. Did the writers give you a heads up about this storyline, or do you discover things when you read the scripts?
No, we get heads up. Dan and I, this year's been a little bit more difficult than previous years because I will just bounce into the writer's room, hang out. And I do it so much that I think they got used to me because they used to sort of change up. Be like, oh, Sterling's here. We should give him something that's Randall specific. I love hearing about Kate and Kevin. I love hearing about Miguel, where most Americans are like, F Miguel. I'm like, no, Miguel is the homie. Like, I love hearing about everybody, And so I would go in so often as a producer myself, just seeing how they break story, seeing the level of care that they give to making sure they get each character's voice right. So that's something I've been familiar with. And now I have to be like, hey, Dan, can I get a Zoom link just so I can say hi to folks, whatever? And so it's kind of gone back to being like, let's do something for Sterling. But no, I just really love seeing the whole creative process from where it starts in its infancy and like what finally ends up on the page. So Dan is very good. He'll ask us at the very beginning of the show, he says, do you guys like to know what's going to happen at the beginning, or do you just kind of like to be surprised as it goes on? And some folks like to be surprised. Me, I come from theater. And I feel like if you get a film script or play, you're going to know the beginning, middle, and end from the beginning. So like, why not be conscious of it so that you can help sort of create that arc along with the writers? So I know some things. This season has been a little bit different. COVID has changed everything. We're currently just finished shooting episode 9, which will be on the air next Tuesday, and we're shooting episode 10. So we're never this close. We're normally 6 to 8 episodes in front, and now it's like they're like racing behind us. So it's a little bit different, but I did know about the mother story, and it was interesting because it landed on me differently than the Williams story, which is my biological father, because for me, there's a certain spiritual component to it. I feel like for Randall, who's someone who lives with anxiety, it's hard for faith and anxiety to occupy the same space. And when you are lacking in faith, that's sort of the world is looking out for you in your best interest, and you have this desire to control every moment, or you think that you can control every moment. And then eventually you realize that you can't. And for Randall, when he comes up to that realization, is like, I don't have control over this moment. That's when the anxiety really sort of comes to the forefront. And so in finding his biological mother and sort of her spiritual past and sort of communing with her in that way in the lake, there's this line that got cut out of the episode, which I was really upset, because Hai asks Randall, are you a spiritual person? He says, not really. If I can't feel it, see it, taste it, smell it, touch it, like it doesn't exist. And so then for him to have what I consider to be a quintessential spiritual moment, like in coming into contact with his mother and hearing those words, I love you, I feel like it may be the beginning of him releasing the need to be in control so much and activating a level of faith that we haven't seen in his life to this point. So that's, yeah.
I was actually curious about sort of where he goes from here. And I know you can't tell us, but, his active forgiveness and the healing we're seeing him going through. I just wonder if we're going to see a different Randall.
I mean, you'll see, when I'm on set, it's really funny because I have one of my favorite people on set is my man in props. His name is Rick. Well, Rick and Chuck both. Shout out to both of you. But Rick will say, like, you know what? When it gets serious, sometimes he's like, I miss Goofy Randall. And I'm like, Goofy Randall ain't going nowhere. Like, Goofy Randall will always be there. But he goes back and forth between really like those moments of sort of solidifying his own identity and his place in the world, and just sort of being that person that likes to keep things light for everyone else, He'll see some changes, but he's still worried about his mom, and how she's going to come through the situation. There's still really an interesting complicated past with he and his brother, who have been there for each other and have sort of agonized one another throughout the years, which I think is really a good brother relationship. Like, that's about par for the course. I got 2 brothers myself and 2 sisters. So I was like, yeah, that's about right. Like, we love each other through torture. And so you'll still see those things playing themselves out. And then we have a nice little wrinkle coming up. Oh, almost, wait, they would get mad at me. Yeah, we have some things coming up. So no, some things will change and they'll stay the same.
So close to learning. You know, you mentioned these characters and this cast is so fantastic. All your scene partners are so good, from Chrissy Metz to Justin Hartley to Susan, who plays Beth. What's it been like to have you all go through this phenomenon together?
It's so interesting. First of all, it's family. Like, they are my family. I don't think of them as actors or associates. I think of them as family. Like, right now, I can say this because this has been put out in public. Like, Mandy Moore is days away from having her first baby, right?
Oh.
And I'm like really excited for mama to actually be a mama. Like, it's about to happen for her, right? It's been, Justin and I were talking the other day, and he's like, you know what? I don't know if either one of us were necessarily household names. We were working and blessed to be working, but now, like, folks kind of know who we are. And there's certain things that we can only talk to each other about, where other folks would be like, oh, cry me a river. You're on the #1 TV show in the world, and that's so difficult for you. How must it be for you? And like, we don't have, my problems have shifted, Jenelle, to champagne problems, what some people call, in my community, we call them white people problems. So it's different, like, things are different, but it doesn't mean it doesn't affect you in a particular way. And you have each other to go through. The contract renegotiation was such a lovely thing to go through with family, because we had each other's backs through that whole thing. And we knew going into it, like, we're going to do this together, or it's going to fall apart, because at the end of the day, we knew that the spirit of the show was about family. And if we did anything to violate the spirit of the show, it would cease to be what it has been. And we didn't want that. We want to go to work being able to not count each other's money and just be like, we can focus on being here with each other,
Wow.
right? And as far as Susan Watson goes, I just gotta, I adore her. Like it's been such a wonderful working relationship. We went to the same grad school together. I was a 3rd year when she was a 1st year, so we didn't do anything together, but we have a common language and a way of approaching the work. And she's just so chill. She is so Long Island / Brooklyn chill. Like, everything just rolls off of Sue like that. She's been the quintessential partner to spend the past 5 years with. And I look forward to what we get a chance to do in the next season as well. So, yeah.
And I know this isn't just talk, because I've had so many friends guest star on the show,
Yeah.
and they do say that it's the best environment. Most of them say that they've ever been on.
I love that. That makes me, because we've all been on sets. We're all actors. The SAG folks will hear this, where you feel welcome. And then you've been on other sets where it's like, oh, it does, like, the series regulars probably don't even talk to you or even recognize you're there until it's like, all right, we run these lines, and then you break, and then you're gone. Like, I've been very cognizant, as someone who I think has been very much a journeyman actor. And I know when I feel welcome and appreciated, and I knew when I had the opportunity to help sort of set the tone, that I wanted to be able to do that. Sue and I were just talking the other day. We were talking, there's an NCIS joke coming up in a future episode. And I was like, Mark Harmon's about the nicest person in the world. And Sue was like, Sterl, she's like, he couldn't have been kinder, or what have you. And like, we both remembered, like, Mark Harmon took the time for this guest star to be like, hey man, you want to pull up a chair? Have a seat, da, da, da. I was like, bro, you ain't got to do that. You was in summer school. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's all good. But like, he did that. And so you learn things from people with grace and humility, and you try to model that for folks, because for a lot of people, this show may be their first experience, and you want them to be able to take within, like, okay, I felt like I was welcome when I stepped into their family.
And then outside, by the way, I love hearing that about Mark Harmon because I'm the biggest summer school fan you'll ever meet.
Awesome movie, awesome dude.
I'm friends with Chainsaw. Do you remember Chainsaw from that movie?
I don't remember Chainsaw, but I have to go back and check it out again.
He was the kid who was like the horror fanatic.
I do remember Chainsaw. Okay, I'm with you. Totally with you.
And he's so talented. He's acting a lot today.
That is awesome.
Obviously we're not out and about as much as we used to be, but this show affects people so deeply. I imagine when you were out before, you must have had lots of strangers coming up to you and maybe even crying.
Yes, that happens. And it still even happens now. I think that I'm incognito when I have my little mask on and sunglasses or what have you. And then I'll open up my mouth and I'll say something and they'll be like, "You, Sterling K. Brown?" And I'm like, yeah, you got me. And then folks will be like, "Yo, can I get a selfie?" I'm like, "You know what? Not right now, man. I'm trying to keep 6 feet."
Yeah.
But every once in a while, I'll do it. But for the most part, I'm trying to still be able to step back into work so we can do the contact tracing. It's so weird. It's really weird, like, it's necessary. And I hope people are maintaining vigilance. I think we're close to all getting our vaccinations within the next several months, knock on wood or what have you, but I'm just encouraging folks to like, stay the course, the course. Don't get exhausted. But I've had lovely comments. I've had people come up to me with babies strapped to their chest saying, "I adopted this child because of you." I've had people come up to me and say, "I quit my job because of you." I'm like, "Hey, bro, I didn't tell you to quit your job." He's like, "No, I was close." And then I saw that episode and I was like, yeah, it's time for me to move on to something else. You'll get comments in social media posts of being like, "I just called my mom and checked up on her," or, somebody passed away from cancer and it was really healing for me to be able to see you say goodbye to your dad. Like it is profound, the multitude of ways in which it touches people's souls. And sometimes you forget when you're on your soundstage and you're just telling your story and you think it's a good story and you hope that it resonates with people. And then you get that actual feedback. And then sometimes I just text Dan and be like, "Yo, man, you're doing something." Dan Fogelman just celebrated his 45th birthday yesterday. And I called him and I said, "Hey, man, like, it's been a real journey, a joy to go on this journey with you and telling a story that means something, right? We always hope that we're entertaining, right? But to actually do something that means something to people, it's the sweet spot for me as an actor to be able to entertain, to educate, and to edify, to build people up. Folks will ask me, because I know you do a lot of film and I love movies and I look forward to being able to do a multitude. And folks will ask me like, "Brown, are you sad? Are you upset that you're missing these opportunities? You're not getting the chance to do this and that?" I was like, man, I get to spend 7 months out of the year at home with my family where my little rugrats can run up and like bother me, but not bother me, but bother me. And I know where I am. And artistically, I get a chance to do something that's incredibly fulfilling and meaningful. There's nothing wrong with enjoying what you do. And I enjoy what I do.
I mean, it hasn't exactly stunted your film career. You've done movies like Black Panther and Waves. You've done Frozen too. I mean, you have the funniest line in Frozen 2. It makes me laugh every time when he's like, "Anna, no!" He's like so invested in the story being told. But your time is precious. So I'm curious, how do you go about choosing your film roles? And like, I don't want to say it's luck because it's not just luck, but you've had a really good run in film as well.
I had a good run. Variety. I look for variety. I look for something that's pretty far away from Randall. I've seen how in the past people can become defined by one character, right? And while I love this character, I would love to be recognized for a body of work. So choosing something very different from Randall. So like, oh, sorry, I thought some of my guys were saying something to me. So that's first and foremost. Curiosity, like finding something that scares you just a little bit, if you can. Like Waves was something scary, not because of my ability to step into it, but like what it would cost me to step into someone who I don't always like, right? Yeah,
Mm.
like Randall is a blessing. It's like, oh, I like this dude. He's really good. But it's not about being liked as an actor. It's about being understood, right? And as long as you can communicate a person's perspective clearly and be like, I understand why he did what he did. I may not like him, but I understand him. Like I love that. So I'm looking forward to more things that sort of push me out of my comfort zone, because I know how many people live inside of me, Jenelle, who are eager to get out and have a chance to come to the forefront for a minute. And I look forward to each giving them their opportunity to play and the appropriate playground. Yeah.
Well, I mean, as if one hit zeitgeisty show wasn't enough, you also joined the cast of The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel for its third season.
Oh yeah, I did. That's right.
There's so much you've forgotten. You're so busy. What made you want to join another hit show?
I love that show.
Yep.
I watched that pilot and I was like, there's a lot of things that make you smile when you're watching comedy. You're like, oh, it's funny. And you think it is funny, but when it's really funny, you don't say, oh, that's funny. You just laugh. Maisel just made me laugh, right? The Paladinos, their patter, it's the closest thing to theater, I think, on camera that they're doing. And being a theater geek, I was just like, this seems like a fun playground to be on and to really work yourself out in, because they do so many oneers. And you realize it's like, oh, if somebody stumbles, they just go back and they do the whole thing again. And that's what it was like. And I was like, oh, this woman is not playing. Like, Amy is the sweetest, kindest, most demanding woman that you're gonna come across, but she makes it a joy. She's like, well, just don't do it until you get it. I'm like, okay. So you're not gonna look bad,
Yeah,
because she's not gonna stop until she gets what she wants, which I think is like, I feel pretty good actually. Like, you sort of like you're like, oh man, this is tough. But then you realize no one ever comes off looking bad on the show because she's so exacting. I was like, I can get down with that, right?
Mhm.
So I'm a good friends with Rachel. I love her to pieces, and I saw her at the Emmys. I was like, if I could come play with you guys on this playground, it would be an honor. And I also felt like they needed a little color. It was time to get a little bit of color up. We in New York City, in the entertainment industry, like, come on, man. Let's put some color up in this joint. So I love, like, anytime I stepped on the Maisel, I looked around, I was like, man, this is just black all around. This makes me feel good, you know?
I actually spoke to Rachel recently, and I was telling her how much I loved her Yearly Departed
Yes.
special, and you have a great cameo in that too. Just lying on the floor.
I'm just being 6 feet tall. This brother being 6 feet tall, trying to practice some social distancing. She's my girl, man. Like, she asked me to do it. I was like, come on. If anything I can do to help, absolutely.
You showed up for one line. I love that.
Thank you. Thank you.
You actually made history last year because you were the first person to be nominated for Emmys in comedy and drama for series regular roles. And it makes me wonder, because you are so funny. Your Saturday Night Live is one of my favorites. And I can't watch Shrek without hearing your voice in my head saying Shrek. Do you have a preferred genre that you like doing better?
No. I would like to do more comedy because I think folks associate me more with drama. And they always say, like, oh, Sterling, you always make me cry. I was like, well, I hope I make you laugh a little bit too. Like, it's not just about pulling out the tears. So I love that muscle. It's mathematic, it's timing, it's rhythm. And I love being able to see if you can just hit that note in just the right way. I'm a theater dude, so I love all the different mediums, but hopefully I'll get a chance to do some more comedy as time goes on. But I don't prefer one over the other.
And did you start a production company? Did I hear that correctly?
I did. Indian Meadows is my production company, named after my neighborhood in St. Louis, Missouri, aiming towards intelligent diversity. I think, for the most part, when I got out of grad school in 2001 and the UPN was up and running, and I remember they were always saying, like, he's really good, but I think he's just a little too smart. I just feel like, God dang it, y'all. Like, just give me a job. I'll show you what I can do. I can speak English or whatever, but just because that's it doesn't mean that there's not a spot for me, a space for me. And so I think the sort of intelligent diversity with people of color, disenfranchised groups at the forefront, not as the best friends or the sassy sidekick, but the person that the story is actually about, gives me a great deal of drive, right? Because I know how important it is and how just sort of emboldening it is when folks get a chance to see themselves on screen. There's a recent tweet that I saw from a Vietnamese dude whose Vietnamese name was Hai. And he said it was the first time that he actually heard his Vietnamese name on screen. And what a joyful moment it was for him. And I'm saying, like, he got to be, Hai was sexy. He was cool. And he got a chance to get with my mom. My mama was cute, okay? And like, I was just like, it means something, you know? Like, I'm very much inspired by the idea of giving that sort of feeling to as many people as possible who have historically not had a chance to have it happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I know you can't tell us what's coming up on This Is Us, so I won't even ask, although I want to. But I can't wait to see what you do next, both in front of and behind the camera. It's always such quality work. It's been such a joy to follow your career just these last 5 years. Thank you so, so much for being here.
The pleasure is mine, Jenelle. Thank you for taking the time to talk to me. I appreciate it.